Hey everybody, welcome back to the Let's Talk Review Show. My name is John, and this week we got 3 reviews for you guys. We're going to be talking about In and Out and its new Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray. We're going to be talking about the new M. Night Shyamalan movie that just came out, Trap. And I finally caught up to Longlegs, so I'm going to give you guys my review of that as well. And because this is a physical media channel first, let's start it off with this Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray for 1997's In and Out, directed by the legendary Frank Oz. And this movie also stars Academy Award winner Kevin Kline. Kevin Kline, the first movie I'll always think of for Kevin Kline first, and this will just show my age because I'm born in 1992, and in 1999, I was a big Will Smith fan. Will Smith hadn't missed at that point. I was a huge Men in Black guy, and I'm like, holy shit, Wild Wild West is coming out. Didn't know Kevin Kline. He was the co-star of that movie, and I thought he was funny. I was one of those people back in 1999, again, young kid, who actually really liked Wild Wild West. So that's how I first came to Kevin Kline. Then I went back and saw his Academy Award-winning performance in A Fish Called Wanda, his best performance, in my opinion, in the movie Dave, and plenty of other great performances, including In and Out. And he's not the only star of this movie. You also get Joan Cusack in this movie, Tom Selleck, who also doesn't have his mustache in this movie, which is pretty iconic, his mustache, so it's pretty funny to see him without that mustache, and it gets a little bit distracting for me, even though he does look pretty good without it, so I'm kind of surprised he didn't do this more often, and he gives a great performance in this movie as well. You also get small performances from Matt Dillon and Wilford Brimley in this movie, and it feels very much like a 1990s film, right down to that upbeat score. It's a very light-hearted movie, even with the subject matter, because this movie is about Kevin Kline's character. He's engaged to Joan Cusack. They're about to get married in a few days. He's a teacher. She was a teacher. So, it just makes a lot of sense. And, they live in a very small town. Everybody knows everybody. Matt Dillon came out of this town, became a big shot actor, and he's nominated for an Academy Award. And the best part about this movie and some of the funniest scenes is seeing the fake movie that Matt Dillon was in. I mean, that got the biggest laughs out of me, and still to this very day, it still does get the biggest laughs out of me. I love that. It's just, that comedy stuff is great. So he wins the Academy Award, he's giving his acceptance speech, and he says the inspiration for this gay character in this movie that gave him the confidence to do it was his former teacher, played by Kevin Kline, a gay man. Now,
to Howard Brackett from Greenleaf, Indiana. Oh, wow. And he's gay.
This shocks the hell not only out of Kevin Kline, but everybody else around him, including his parents, this entire town, his fiancée Joan Cusack, and now the movie's about him facing this town, trying to get acceptance, him trying to come to terms with his own sexuality at the same time. Is he a gay man? And that's what this entire movie's about, and it's done in a very light-hearted, fun 1990s way. I understand that, this movie's almost 30 years old now, so some of the gay panic stuff might seem a little bit outdated, especially in 2024, where more people are more accepting of others. This guy feels like his life just got flipped upside down. He's got to come to terms with his own sexuality at the same time, trying to still fit into the community that he just loves. He loves everybody in this town, but now, are they going to still love him for who he is? And that's what this movie is about. Again, it's very lighthearted. It's a good time. It's very funny. There's a lot of laugh-out-loud moments in this. The acting is done so well. Even Matt Dillon in that small role, he is so funny in this movie. Joan Cusack, I love Joan Cusack. She's just always so charming. She's great in this movie. And her arc, you feel the worst for her because she didn't do anything wrong, and nothing seems to go her way. She falls in love with a guy who might be gay, and then, she's trying to deal with that throughout the rest of this movie, and she just doesn't understand how this could happen to her. She's such a good person, and I've been there. Like, I've always done the right thing. Why does all this bad shit keep happening to me? So I related to Joan Cusack in this movie. You really do feel the worst for her because everything is done so lighthearted, but when you really think about it, it's like, yeah, that really does suck. Not only do you have to deal with the embarrassment, but you love this man, and are you still going to get married to him? And I think that's a big part of this movie, and I think she plays her part so well, just like everybody does. Now, I understand this might not be the greatest movie of all time, and it's not, but it's definitely one. This feels like what I like to call a Saturday morning type of movie. You pour a cup of coffee, you watch it, you have a few laughs. I watched this with my wife. She has a few laughs. We enjoyed it, but it's nothing that's going to blow you away. This is your standard 3.5-star movie, really enjoyable. Doesn't do any harm. It's a fun watch, and it was definitely what I was looking forward to coming to 4K Blu-ray, and Kino Lorber definitely does feel like the perfect studio for it, keeping these older movies alive that a lot of people from the 1990s might have forgotten about, and forgotten that, Kevin Kline, great actor that he is, Academy Award winning actor, did put out some great performances, and including in a little movie like this. And I was really happy to get this Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray. I pre-ordered it. You know, it's a standard Kino Lorber release, so of course, if you've seen any of my Kino Lorber reviews, you know, we get the same packaging, the uniform packaging with the movie poster on it, and then everything else around it just looks very uniform to every other Kino Lorber release. Right down to the disc design. You get your 4K Blu-ray over here, your Blu-ray disc over here with the Kino Lorber disc design, no individual disc design. And I've always said it, I can understand why people might think that's pretty boring. I respect that. I do like that Kino Lorber, though, keeps all their stuff uniform and just puts the regular movie poster on the front of the box. Really simple, and I can definitely appreciate that with In and Out. And just like a lot of recent Kino Lorber 4K Blu-ray releases, you're going to have Dolby Vision HDR10. It's going to be presented in the aspect ratio of 1.85. All of your extras are going to be on that second Blu-ray disc, and like a lot of Kino Lorber releases, not a lot of extras. You get an audio commentary track, an interview with Frank Oz, some archival interviews with Kevin Kline and Joan Cusack, and again, speaking of Joan Cusack, I love her interview in these archival interviews. Again, she just seems so sweet, so down to earth, just somebody you'd want to have a conversation with. You know, I might not be the biggest John Cusack fan, but I do absolutely love his sister, Joan Cusack, and pretty much everything she's ever done, whether it be School of Rock or Broadcast News, I've always just really enjoyed Joan Cusack, and she's great in this, and then just listening to her in interviews is also fantastic. So yeah, we don't really get too many extras. Then of course we get the classic Kino Lorber long list of trailers you can watch on here as well to, you know, make that list look full of extras when really it's not. So it's something I would expect from Kino Lorber. Everything is what I expect from Kino Lorber. Then we get the 2 audio tracks, the 2.0, the DTS HD Master Audio 5.1, a good DTS HD Master Audio 5.1. But again, you know, this is a comedy. It's got a good score to it. Everything came in crisp and clear, but it's nothing that's going to blow you away. But of course, this isn't the type of movie where the audio track is supposed to blow you away. You just really hope that everything is mixed well. You can set the volume at whatever you want, put the remote down, and not have to worry about it. Everything comes in clear, no clicks, nothing like that. So it's just a really good audio track. But, you know, again, it's not the kind of audio track that's there to blow you away. It's just got to be good. Everything's got to be clear. And just make sure it's, you know, sending things to the right channels and mixed well. And I could say, yeah, they definitely did that with this movie. But the thing you're really looking for is that visual upgrade. Now, I've never thought that this was a bad-looking movie. In fact, every time I've ever seen this movie, I always thought, oh, it's a pretty good-looking late 1990s movie. So when this was coming to 4K Blu-ray, I was wondering how big of a jump from Blu-ray to 4K Blu-ray would this be? Now, I didn't own it physically. I've seen it only on streaming before. So I was like, okay, let's see how this looks. Now, you do get that pack-in Blu-ray. Check that out, and everything looks pretty good on it. It's a good-looking Blu-ray, kind of how I remember the movie. But then when you go to that 4K Blu-ray and you get the HDR10 and the Dolby Vision, and things just brighten up. That's really the stuff that stood out to me. Everything looks sharper. There's a lot more detail. The colors will pop off your screen. Again, as far as the visuals go, this isn't something that's going to hit a grand slam, but more like a ground rule double. It's a noticeable upgrade, but it's not going to be something, just because of the type of movie it is, it's not something that's going to stand out in the crowd. It's just a good visual upgrade where they did everything you could hope for with the HDR and the Dolby Vision and what the 4K Blu-ray format can do. It just sharpens things up. You'll notice the little details way more than you did in the past. You'll notice people's hair, their 5 o'clock shadows, and you can just see the tiniest little details, little beads of sweat, and all that stuff is stuff, and you know, the little buttons on their clothes. You just your eyes start to get drawn to things that they had never gotten drawn to before when it comes to this movie, and that's really what the 4K Blu-ray format does. It breathes new life in the movie you probably never even thought about the visuals to. This is something I was talking about with Heathers. It's very similar to that. It's just that this isn't the biggest upgrade, mainly because it's a late 1990s film, and a late 1990s film that I had already thought looked pretty good, so I wasn't expecting the biggest upgrade, but I did want to have In and Out in my collection, and Kino Lorber is the only studio I would expect to bring that to 4K Blu-ray, maybe the Criterion Collection, but because we got it from Kino Lorber, I do feel like they gave the extras a little bit of a shaft, but I would expect that from Kino. But everything else is pretty good, so you can't really give this In and Out 4K Blu-ray a bad grade because it was pretty well done. Just nothing that's going to knock your socks off. So I would give In and Out on 4K Blu-ray a pretty damn good 8 out of 10. And then the big new release this week was the latest film from M. Night Shyamalan, Trap. And I'm not a trailer guy. I try to avoid trailers like the plague because I feel like they spoil too much of the movie. And this trailer actually got its hooks in me, but I was very worried about them spoiling the entire movie in the trailer because the trailer gives so much away, but then when you watch the movie, you're like, yeah, it gave a lot away, but it doesn't actually hurt the movie itself. If you guys have seen the trailer, you know, Josh Hartnett, he's taking his daughter to a concert. The artist playing at this concert is Lady Raven, played by M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, Salika Shyamalan. Now, this isn't the same daughter of M. Night Shyamalan who directed The Watchers early in this year, but if you're M. Night Shyamalan, how proud are you as a dad that your daughter, this daughter who's in this movie, she's also a successful singer herself. Makes a lot of sense that she'd be playing a singer in this movie, but her other daughter is getting her directing career off the ground. Like, as a father, and you're a creative father at that who's directed all these great movies, how proud are you that your two daughters are already successful creators themselves? Like, if I was a father, I'd be just like over the moon about it. And you can clearly see that he's got a lot of pride for them. You know, he puts them front and center in his movie because his daughter in this movie, she's playing like the Taylor Swift type. She's appealing to, you know, teenage girls. So, of course, Josh Hartnett wants to take his teenage daughter to this concert. And what do you know? He's looking all around and he's like, a lot of security and a lot of police presence here. More than your average concert. So he's starting to poke around. He makes friends with the security guard, Jamie, who's fantastic in this movie, by the way. And, you know, he's like, what's going on? They're like, well, you know that butcher, that serial killer they've been talking about? This whole big thing, it's a trap to catch him. They don't know who he is, but this whole thing, they're going to filter him out, and we're going to find them. And, you know, Josh Hartnett's like, oh, okay, thanks for that information. Then he goes in the bathroom, and we see that he is actually the killer. Now, all this stuff was revealed in the trailer. So the whole movie really, realistically, is about how is he going to escape this trap. And it definitely goes down a bunch of different roads after that I'm not going to spoil here. And for me, I thought this movie was really good. Was it great? No, this is your straightforward thriller. And this got me actually thinking, because I saw a lot of reviewers say that this felt like a straightforward Alfred Hitchcock thriller. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, you know, M. Night Shyamalan kind of is our modern day Alfred Hitchcock. M. Night puts out a lot of movies. Like, he sometimes will put out one movie a year. He rarely ever puts out sequels. You know, he had the Unbreakable trio of movies, which are hit or miss. A lot of his movies are hit or miss. Some are great, some are just good, some are outright bad. But M. Night Shyamalan, he keeps working, and a lot of us kind of felt like he came back with his last couple of movies, Old and Knock at the Cabin. You could even argue The Visit. I really liked Old, didn't really like the end of it, really liked Knock at the Cabin. I would say that this movie isn't as good as these previous movies, but I would still say it's better than, like, Glass. It's definitely not as good as Split, but you got to appreciate M. Night still working, and what really stands out in this movie is Josh Hartnett. You go see this movie to see his performance. It's completely unhinged, and I even saw people saying, like, oh, he doesn't do a great job acting, and I don't think they understand that he's kind of playing a bunch of different people. And this movie also reminded me of one of my favorite 1980s movies, The Stepfather, in a lot of different aspects, especially in the third act. And they got some big laughs out of me for those moments especially. So for me, the movie itself was very, very, very enjoyable. It was very funny. You know, this movie was also supposed to be somewhat of a concert film. That's what M. Night said in interviews, is that he wanted us to feel like one of those concert movies, like the Taylor Swift Eras Tour concert film that came out last year, or the Beyonce concert film that came out last year. He wanted it to actually feel like that, and I think he almost landed that. The only thing is the arena that they filmed in, obviously they're not going to be able to rent out like a stadium or a big arena. It just felt a little bit too small for what they were trying to go for as far as the scope goes. Makes a lot of sense. And also, those songs that they play throughout the movie, and we have long sequences of the concert, I felt like you could have trimmed some time off of that. I get what they were going for. You're trying to create that atmosphere. I just don't think it 100% worked. What really worked is really watching Josh Hartnett try and navigate this entire film. And I thought he's just the standout. Not only is he just did a phenomenal job, and I want to see Josh Hartnett do way more movie roles like this. And actually, someone told me yesterday that, I haven't seen it yet, but apparently his performance in Black Mirror in an episode with him and Aaron Paul is really good as well, and kind of showed that he had this gear in him. I just didn't expect it. And for me, the only real big reason to go see this movie in theaters right now, instead of waiting for it to come to home video, is you just got to see that Josh Hartnett performance, because it really is impressive. But overall, it's still a pretty decent thriller that I can recommend you guys going to see. I just don't know if I can recommend it entirely in theaters, unless you really want to see that Josh Hartnett performance. But still, it's a great time. I had fun with it. It's not a movie that I think is going to win any sort of awards or end up in any top 10 lists at the end of the year, but not every movie needs to be that. Sometimes a good 3-star movie is just fine, and that's exactly what this movie is. And if I was going to give Trap a score of 1 to 10, I would give it a 7.5 out of 10. And last but definitely not least is Longlegs. This is the movie that was directed by Oz Perkins, son of Anthony Perkins, you know, the guy who played Norman Bates in the Psycho movies. So, you know, horror must just be in the blood. And I've only seen, what was it, Hansel and Gretel from him. That was the only other movie I ever saw him direct. And I thought that was fine. I have to go back and watch some of his other movies because I heard some great recommendations about that. But going into this movie, all I knew about it was that Nicolas Cage was in it, and that it's supposedly one of the scariest movies of the year. So it got a little bit overhyped for me, I believe. And I didn't actually end up getting to see it until this past week, where it was almost out of theaters. I went to my local theater. They had one Showtime playing. You know, I got there, like, right as about the movie was going to start, so I could avoid all the trailers. And the guy's like, all right, you got the whole theater to yourself. So I was like, all right, okay, good. Maybe this will be a good experience in a low-budget theater like this. And it was. I had a good time watching this movie. It was definitely overhyped. It is not one of the scariest movies of the year. What it does have is great tension and great atmosphere. Now, all that stuff I love in a great horror movie, but I just think that, you know, we kind of get these early reviews out. It's just all the time now. Scariest movie of the year, In a Violent Nature, same thing. And then when everybody else gets to see it, you know, I feel like people are just a little bit let down. And I was one of those people, but I would still say that this is one of the best horror movies of 2024. It's also more of a detective film. It's not as much a straightforward horror film as you would think. You know, Nicolas Cage is in this movie, and I don't want to spoil his performance because they are purposely withholding that, and I don't want to be one of those people spoiling how he is in this movie or how his look is in this movie. Let's just say that Nicolas Cage, to me, was the best part of this movie, and you didn't have to have him in every single scene. You know, honestly, less is more, I felt like, with Nicolas Cage in this movie, because when he is on the screen, I just thought he was hitting a home run. Now, the other star of this movie, the actual main character, our protagonist, played by Makia Monroe, who is, I remember from It Follows, and I thought she did a great job in this movie as well. Again, not a slam dunk performance, but still really good. It was really the atmosphere that kind of got its teeth in me, and the detective stuff. Also, this is technically a period piece taking place in like the late 1980s, early 1990s, takes place in Oregon. Oregon's never looked so beautiful. Makes me really want to go up there and see Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews and really get a look at the state, because looks like a beautiful state to me. You know, there's some great snow scenes in this. This is the kind of movie I feel like you definitely watch in winter. And then, of course, you're just going to really appreciate Nicolas Cage's performance. Now, I don't want to say too much about this movie because I went into it blind, and I feel like that is absolutely the best way to go into this movie. Just make sure you guys taper your expectations a little bit. If you're going into this movie expecting to get your socks blown off and this be the greatest horror movie you've seen in years, it's not that type of movie. But you still should appreciate this movie for what it is, because it's got great craftsmanship, great performances at the center of it. You cast Nicolas Cage. That stuff is all good to me. It looks great. It's very well shot. They're doing things with the aspect ratio that, for me as a film fan, I really appreciate that kind of stuff. Helping it stand out in the crowd and not feel like these generic horror movies like The Nun and Nun 2 that we get, where we all use the same exact cinematography, and that just bothers the hell out of me. I like to see a lot of effort put into the production design, and this movie definitely, as far as the best features about it, the tone, the atmosphere, and the beautiful production design helped to push this movie over the top. Even if the performances are really good as well, it just does feel like it's missing a little something, and I think a lot of that has to be the overhype. Maybe in like 2 years, when we've moved away from that, I'll appreciate this movie even more. I will get that 4K Blu-ray when it comes out, because I absolutely had a great time with it. It's just, again, I think I got a little overhyped for me, but I still do think that this is one of the best horror movies of 2024, and if you didn't get to see it in theaters, that 4K Blu-ray is coming out, and I can definitely recommend it, and I would definitely give Longlegs a 8 out of 10. Definitely a great horror movie I can recommend to you guys, and just see it for Nicolas Cage. It's always fun to see Nicolas Cage. No matter what movie he's in, he's at least giving it his all. And this was a much smaller episode of the Let's Talk Review Show this week. Only got to review 3 movies, but 3 big movies. And let me know, what did you guys think of these 3 films in the comment section below. And while you guys are down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We also have channel memberships. You can become a friend of the channel, a producer of the channel like John Doe Juggalo and Jason Martin. You could also become a director like Mr. Smelly Potato and Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews. And don't forget, Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews and John Doe Juggalo have great YouTube channels as well. So make sure you guys head over there, subscribe to them. They're just downright great guys, and I promise you, you will not regret it. But anyway, guys, that's going to do it here for me. Make sure you guys get out in those streets and tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.